Drop it. Or I'll drop this. Drop it!
He'll do it!
The date is 18th of October 2024, 157 years ago. On this very day, Alaska was transferred to the United States. It was earlier a part of Russia. The United States bought Alaska for $7.2 million only. And this wasn't a one-off deal in recent history. I come to you tonight with details of several such interesting buys. All of them seem unimaginable in today's context. Did you know Mumbai, or erstwhile Bombay, was once given away in dowry? It happened in 1661. Read this article. Singapore was sold for 5,000 Spanish dollars. China had leased Hong Kong to Britain for 99 years. The states of California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah never belonged to America. Spain sold the Philippines to America for $20 million. Can you imagine deals like these being struck today? Can you imagine your country being sold to another country, or a part of your country being traded for money or gold? The very idea can trigger a political hurricane. And yet there are countries that give away land without a fight. India is said to have ceded 38,000 square kilometers of land to China in the last 70 years. And if any gains were made, they have not been reported. Well, let's skip to what happened to Alaska. It was sold to the United States for $7.2 million. The amount is equivalent to approximately $125 million today. That's how much an Airbus A320neo costs, around $111 million. That's approximately the price tag for 28 commercial wind turbines. $125 million is what Dwayne Johnson, Vin Diesel, and Adam Sandler's combined annual income is. And the US bought 370 million acres of foreign territory with that money. That's 2 cents an acre. Alaska is twice the size of Sweden. It has nearly 2/3 of all the national park lands of the US. Alaska's shoreline is longer than the entire Atlantic coast. It spans 2 time zones. It has 3,000 rivers, 3 million lakes, 100,000 glaciers, more than 100 volcanoes. Alaska is one of the richest states of the United States. It is the largest by area, and also the second largest producer of crude oil in the US. Alaska produces an average of 670,555 barrels of crude oil a day. It is rich in copper, gold, timber, zinc, lead, fish, fur. Alaska is so rich that it does not have sales or income tax. Instead, Alaska gives every resident an annual stipend. That rich. Did Russia know about Alaska's potential? And why did Russia sell Alaska at all? The answer to the first question is no. Russia did know that Alaska was resourceful, but not this resourceful. And this is the man who ceded Alaska, Tsar Alexander II. To understand why he sold Alaska, we must look at some history. The Russians colonized Alaska in 1784. Maintaining a territory so far from the mainland was not easy. Communication was a problem, so was transportation. Around the 1800s, Russia began questioning the profitability of this colony. Britain, too, was eyeing Alaska. Russia was bankrupt after its war with Crimea. Defending Alaska or even maintaining it became a problem. So starting the 1850s, Russia began trying to dispose of Alaska. It offered the land to the United States on many occasions, but the US did not have the time for that discussion. Talks were further postponed when the American Civil War broke out in 1861, but Russia was in debt. It needed money, so it decided to sell Alaska for just $7.2 million. The Treaty of Cession was signed on the 30th of March, 1867. The signatories were these: then US Secretary of State William H. Seward and Russian envoy Baron Edward the Stokel. The Alaska Treaty 1867 marked the end of Russia's expansion to North America. For America, it meant opportunity, one that it had no clue about. For the longest time, Alaska was called Seward's Folly. The popular thought in America was that the land was good for nothing, and it had nothing to offer. Then gold was discovered in the 1890s, oil in 1968, and the rest, as they say, is history. Is this the only such land sale to another country? Far from it. You may have heard of Gwadar, the port that is practically owned by China now. It is on Pakistani land, but it did not always belong to Pakistan. It was an overseas territory of Muscat and Oman. Pakistan bought it for $3 million. This was back in 1958. Muscat needed money, and Pakistan had its eyes on the strategic location of Gwadar. Today, the city houses a deep water port controlled by China. Little did Pakistan know that its Gwadar deal will go on to profit the Chinese. Another set of islands China is eyeing is controlled by Japan, the Senkaku Islands. They are claimed by three countries, China, Taiwan, and Japan. Tokyo bought the Senkaku Islands in 2012. It paid 2.1 billion yen to one family, the Kuriharas. Today, that will be around $23.6 million. The deal was a game changer in the East China Sea. The Senkaku Islands sit in key shipping lanes. They also lie close to gas deposits. Here's another set of islands that's passed hands, the Virgin Islands. They were once called the Danish West Indies. As you may have guessed, Denmark owned them. The US wanted these islands as a national security asset. Lucky for Washington, the islands were turning out to be too expensive for Denmark to maintain. So the islands of St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix were sold to the US. The year was 1917, and the transfer amount was $25 million in gold. 29 years later, the US made another offer to Denmark. It offered $100 million for Greenland. The Danish government said no. Greenland became an autonomous region in 1979, but its unwillingness to be owned by the US remained unchanged. In 2019, when the US President Donald Trump expressed his wish to buy this land, he was told it's not for sale. For Trump, Greenland would have been the real estate deal of the century. But the real deal of the century was struck somewhere in the Pacific by former president of Kiribati, Anote Tong. He bought land from another country to save his people in case his country submerges because of climate change. This was in 2014. Kiribati paid $8.77 million to Fiji. This was in exchange for 20 square kilometers of land on Vanua Levu. And it goes down in history as perhaps the only such deal driven by need and not greed.